Thank you so much for coming. I'm so excited to be here talking at She Drew That. I've been thinking about for quite a long time how to approach this talk, because I feel like I don't really ever get the chance to talk to a room of women about work. So I've been very excited about it. So I thought maybe a nice way to introduce would be to talk a bit about what's in a style. Because we obviously have quite a defined character style at Cabeza Batata. So I thought it would be cool to explain a bit how I came from this little Katie making things and drawing things as just passing the time as a hobby, through to working a bit more as an illustrator and finding my style a bit more, through to founding my production company with my partner Abel here. So I thought when you're kind of living it, I think it's a bit hard to describe what your influences are, but I was thinking a bit retrospectively about it, and I think the main things are politics, fashion and characters. And I realised actually that's kind of just what I like. So I've always have liked politics a lot. Here I am in school at a protest, and actually I actually went on to study politics at university as well. And at the same time I was really into making things, from making little toys for and like clothes for my characters and early embroidery here. Then I started to later create my brand La Katie, making customized embroidery for clients like this and for some other studios and collaborations in this way. And it was kind of through embroidery that I started exploring character a lot more, which is I think my final love. And you can see here like Totoro and some characters from popular culture that I was finding really interesting, but also I was starting to develop my own characters through this, and you could see them starting to pop up and take personality a bit here. And I think that these three things are what makes the foundation for me for Cabeza Batata. I think obviously there's two of us, and if you talk to Abel, I think they would have three completely different things, but from my side I think it's this politics, fashion and characters, which lead us to make images like this, which we made for a recent campaign in Apple Korea, or images like this one, which was for Chinese New Year, or something like this for New Yorker. But why Cabeza Batata? Not just the funny name, but also like why do we do it? How did we start making it? We started working together 2 years ago now, and we started kind of just for fun. We never actually had the intention to make a production company or make a studio or anything. We just started as this fun exercise, translating through different mediums these silly characters. So we started off from 2D into 3D, playing a bit with shape and form. Also, of course, in embroidery and exploring a bit of textile design, and just using the characters really as a vehicle to see how you can play with shape and space and size to create something a bit different each time. So it was really just us having fun, making different things and trying out things that we'd always wanted to try out. But then what about the three influences I was talking about? Because I think they came in right from the beginning in everything that we were trying. And I've got a particularly clear example from this project we made right at the beginning about sports. And we made just different women playing sports. And right at the beginning, I think you can see the character element, obviously, the fashion element. We always make these personalized clothes for all of our characters. And the politics side of things, I think, is the one that might not be as visible immediately. You might just see some characters doing sports, but actually, when we were looking for references for this, we were looking how a baseball outfit looks. And the first page of Google Images, the first page of results is like this.
Nice.
Yeah. So you can see all the men here looking cool, looking ready to do sport in their outfits, and then you can see all the women in these sexy costumes, and it was just so shocking, and this is the norm in so many ways. And so we feel like when this is the realities that you're getting every day, when you're making images that look like this, already you're making something that looks a bit different. And it gives a bit of a meaning to your work, rather than just drawing whatever or trying to emulate another thing. And I think that these stereotypes that we have are really embedded, and in the same way that you might think of a man when you think of an athlete or a baseball player, in the same way I think a lot of people when they hear animator or when they hear creative also think of a man. And I have another example here. When this happened, I mean this happens a lot, but to us this happened, we posted a picture, yeah, some people have read it. We posted a picture on Instagram of the two of us and somebody commented, said, "This girl is very beautiful, is she your girlfriend?" And this is just like sexist on so many levels. First of all, he thinks that despite the fact that we always say Katie and Abel, despite the fact there's two people and one is a woman in the picture, he still thinks, oh, it must be the man. And then on top of that, he decides to comment on my appearance without really acknowledging my existence in any way. So we did what we always do, and we put the passive-aggressive thumbs up. But I think that although this can feel like really daunting sometimes, and I'm sure a lot of you have had similar experiences, and it can be really disheartening, but what we try and do is take a really positive approach to it and think, how can we challenge it? And obviously that's why we're all here at She Drew That. But how can we challenge it in our work as well? And so I think these are the 4 things that I'm going to talk about over this talk, that are being selective, not only with the clients that you work with or the projects you do, but also how you work within them. Because you can, as illustrators, we're allowed to put our spin on things, and you can decide how you want to represent a topic and what you want to do about it. Also about claiming space in the way that you work and in the work that you do. Always being conscious of your own prejudices and of other people's and trying to voice them. And finally, sharing and championing others. Again, obviously why we're all here. But the first one is being selective. And I mean, we've been lucky to get a lot of nice projects in which we've been able to be selective with who we work with and be selective with how we represent things. So one project that we got quite early on was for this charity called Vow to End Child Marriage, and it was made here with Strange Beast in London, and it was a collaborative project with 6 other artists. So we each did a short section of the video, and it made up the whole video. So our part was about a little girl looking for monsters under her bed. And this was really early on. This was only a few months after beginning to work together, and we didn't really know a lot about 3D animation. So we decided what we'd do is make the 2D frame by frame, which we knew about, and then just copy it in 3D to get this kind of stop motion-y effect. And we really liked the result. We thought it was a fun way of doing it to get something a bit different. And so we copied the frame by frame and then put the fabric simulation on top. And you get this, like the trick of the eye. It's a little confusing what you're looking at because it looks like it could be real, but then the clothing is too realistic. It needs to sort of catch up with the model, and so we liked the look of that already. And then we decided in this project as well to create a little bit more of a complex environment and a bedroom for our little girl to look under the bed. So here we put a lot of little secrets and a lot of love into this room because we thought, okay, if it's going to be seen only for 3 seconds, we want to completely tell a story with it. So we hid a little teddy bear behind the chest of drawers. We thought maybe she's a bit embarrassed about having it. She's a bit too old now. The same thing with the skateboard, and she's a bit messy and these things. And this way we decided that even in this tiny segment you see here, we were able to tell a whole story, and people can imagine a lot of things about the girl and identify with her a lot more. And I have the full video as well here.
In the time it takes a girl to think up a new dance move, realize pigeons don't make good pets, customize her sneakers, pack a backpack, confirm there are no monsters under her bed, talk her brother out of his dessert, another girl will be married, vow to end child marriage.
And these are the other artists that worked on this video. And it was really exciting for us to see, so early on, to see our character among all of these other characters of artists that we really loved as well, and to see how she was already looking quite unique and feeling quite like our own creation. And from this feeling of uniqueness that was slowly appearing, we started to get more different jobs. And we got one from the New York Times, which was so fun for us. We always really love to do editorial illustration when we can, because that's a great moment, because you're working with less people and it's not a commercial campaign, and so there's not going to be so much feedback and there's not going to be so many concerns about different markets, and it's kind of your moment where you can decide who's going to be in the images and you can really put your own spin on it, especially if you have a fun client like we had here. So I'll show you a little bit of the process, and you can see as well how smooth it was working with them, because we always find if something is working from the beginning, then all the way through it's like a magic 3D button. It's just every stage becomes super simple and you get a good end result. So in this one, we, as we always do, we start with sketching things, and we like to put photo references as well, and because we really like fashion as well. Sometimes I'm Googling and I'm looking on like Urban Outfitters and ASOS, and I'm thinking, am I working or am I internet shopping? But we start like this, then we jump into the modelling phase, and we get the composition and everything, getting the characters feeling really comfortable as they are, before we make their clothes in this other program called Marvelous Designer. And then we put the clothes on the characters, and finally add their light, colour and texture for the final image. And again, I've got the kind of magic 3D button for the whole of this series. It was a series of 6 illustrations for how to dress on different occasions. And you can see a bit here how right from the beginning, if you already like it, nothing really changes. And if you have someone who's sort of easygoing with it. So we have our we also learn a lot about how to dress for different occasions as well. It was very important. The article was taking itself not so seriously, but seriously enough to need to do it. So this one is black tie. And the final one, we have the white tie, where we kind of just copied Sarah Jessica Parker's dress from the Oscars. But nobody noticed. And then funnily enough, from this one, recently El País came and they wanted an illustration for a menswear fashion article, and we kind of became like 3D character fashion illustrators. And I've never heard of that before, but if you ever need one, I'm here. And it was super fun. It's always really nice to have a client who not only accepts when you want to try and put a different type of person or a different type of situation in a scene, but actively encourages it. I think people can get a bit excited when you start suggesting things, and I always have found that it always goes better than you think it will. So, my next point is about claiming space, and I think for me this is quite important. I think as women we don't often get to have a chance to claim space. Like even when you're in the street, you might feel less safe, and you might not feel so able to take ownership of things. But when you're an illustrator, you really get the chance to put your work and to put your characters everywhere. And that's so exciting for us. We got to, in last summer's campaign for the Museums Quartier in Vienna, we got to put our characters all over the city. The idea is that every summer they have this square where all the museums are, and they invite the public to go there, and they put on free activities. So the idea of the campaign is to kind of get everyone excited and get everyone to go and to represent different types of people in the city. And we just love that idea that people are there reacting positively to the images that we're making, and you're trying to get a bit of a different result with each one. But of course, this kind of campaign doesn't come around every day, so in our personal work as well, we liked this idea of claiming space and making physical objects and not always being behind the computer as well. So we went to Pictoplasma last year, we did an exhibition, and we kind of took it to make everything that we've been wanting to make in real life. So we did some laser cut here, we made this wooden figure and painted it here, and what we wanted to do was that people would be able to walk around all of the figures and see things for the whole way. Because sometimes when they're on the screen, a lot of people actually think that they're real characters, and unfortunately not. We only have one actual real 3D figure who we printed here in 3D. And we had to take her in separate little pieces to Berlin because it was too fragile like this. So we put it together and then sewed all the teeny tiny clothes on and put her in the exhibition, as you can see here. And in the back of the exhibition, you can see it's full of papers like this because we gave people templates of the cabeça batata heads, and people did really funny things. Like this person in the middle made the nose into a mouth screaming. And it was funny because we printed like 50 pages or something on the first day, and I said, this is ridiculous, there's much too many. But actually we arrived there about midday, they were all used up. So every day we were arriving and printing more and moving them up the wall and making space. And it was so cool to see how what we had maybe thought was our exhibition actually became everyone's exhibition. Everyone who came to visit got to take part. And I mean, loads of kids came and made like 4 or 5 pictures, and their parents were trying to tear them away. But it was, yeah, such a nice experience to be able to do something like that. To do what we really set out to be doing at the beginning, really, trying different mediums and using the characters as a way of making different things. Yeah, some of you might have seen the giant head. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring it along today because I came from Barcelona and apparently it's not considered hand luggage. So it is in Barcelona in a box, unfortunately. But the head has come around with us to various places and is always making friends. And basically is funny in any situation, we discovered. Obviously has some dark days occasionally, but the head actually had a big moment where it appeared on its nice that last year, and so I like to think the head is now kind of famous. But as well, this funny thing happens. I hope you can all meet the head, because when you put it on, you can't help but dance. It's really weird. It's like absolutely everybody. I don't know, I think there's something, it's like you can't see and you feel a bit awkward, so your immediate reaction is to dance. But further to Cabeça Batata, this is my embroidery brand, La Katie, and I still like to do work under this as well. I still like to sometimes go and do markets, to meet people as well, and to do embroidery workshops. And we did this one in Berlin that was, I think, a world record of embroidery workshop. Unconfirmed, but I have never seen so many people embroidering in one room. And it was so silent and so nice. And it was just sweet people. And you can see here someone brought their baby along as well. Obviously the baby was sleeping perfectly, so relaxed. And there were just all sorts of people there. This was these like American bikers. And it was so beautiful. It was a moment where everyone was really brought together by the love of characters and of craft, and people were helping each other even though they'd only just learned how to do embroidery. And it was so nice to see how if you open up your process and if you're welcoming to other people, you get all sorts of different people coming in. Like, you might not assume that that biker wanted to make an embroidery, but maybe like he had a leather jacket and he wanted to embroider or something. It was lovely to see. My next point is about always being conscious, and I felt I should write even if you don't always succeed, because I think the most important thing is to always be trying to voice your concerns when you feel like something's not right, even though I know that it's not always easy to do so, and it's definitely not always easy to follow through and make that happen, especially if you're working on a big campaign with many different voices. I have an example from the campaign we made last year for Spotify, mid-year. It was a challenge for many, many reasons. It was a huge campaign, and we had to get on a lot more people. So for a couple of months, we were maybe 10 or 12 patatas. Some of them are here. Some of the team were based in Barcelona of character animators and character riggers who we had there, and then some people were working remotely with us. But as well as being a really big project and us needing to expand the team and be directing a lot of people, also a big challenge was that they wanted to have a character who was gender neutral and had no defined race. So we decided to solve the thing with race. We thought we could have non-realistic skin tones. So we started here experimenting a bit with having a bit more like bluey or purpley, but we felt like it was looking a little bit alien and not so warm, so we went into this slightly more translucent look with these gradients that we were liking a bit more. So fairly early on we defined this character look. And for a lot of the campaign, it was actually really smooth. You can see from this is one of the very beginning sketches that we sent to the final illustration. It went really well. Very few changes, very positive. Clients always pushing forward, which is great to work with. And the idea of the campaign is that each of the 12 videos is a different feeling that you might feel when you're listening to music. So like this is when you're feeling sad and then you want to listen to music that makes you feel more sad and you just wallow in it. Or this one is when you're feeling really chilled and you feel like you're kind of floating in the clouds. But some of them, there were a lot of back and forth and a lot of difficulties doing them. This one was just like tons of different outfits, color options, even some just imperceptible differences in the fit of the clothing to get the right result. So some of them had a lot of aesthetic changes like this, but some of them, the difficulties we had went a lot deeper than just the colors of how they looked. And the most problematic character was the angry one, because right from the beginning, everyone was just seeing a man when they saw this angry character. And we needed the character to be gender neutral. So people started saying, we were working with a team in Spotify and then also with they had all these different markets and different levels of people. So tons of people were seeing it and kind of convincing each other this was a man. And, and we kept saying, no, I think it looks really gender neutral, but no. People were saying, oh, maybe it's the watch or maybe it's the shoes. And we went through different iterations trying even to like make a pink background in case that made people think of a woman, but they still didn't. And we realized it wasn't really about the clothes or the length of the hair or whether it was wearing a watch or a bracelet, but it was more like people couldn't see an angry character and think of a woman or not think of a man. And we thought, like, fair enough, because even when you're little and you're watching cartoons, the angry character is usually a man. So your association is so embedded there that you can't really see this angry character and not think of a man. So the solution that we came up with was to make them frustrated. And we brought this kind of comical edge to the animation, which was really fun, and it was a really... It's a funny and it's a really cool result, but it was one of these cases where it was a little bit disappointing that we had to compromise on this. But of course we understood that even if most of the team agreed, they said, oh, we feel the same way, that people are just seeing the angriness and seeing the man, but what can you do? You have to do the whole campaign and go forward with it. But the whole campaign was a big success, and I have an edit of all of the videos. Now, this project had similar requirements because it was going to be a global project and they wanted to be able to represent everyone, so not have a defined gender, race or age. But we solved it in a completely different way, which was not using humans. We decided we would just use objects instead. And this campaign was for Google's Gboard for during Christmas, so you could send these objects. And this is the final result, and everything was fine. But in the beginning, we were completely out of our comfort zone doing this, of course, because we'd got used to making humans, and we hadn't made Christmas trees before. And so we sent that to the client, and they're kind of sweaty, they're a bit scary, and I remember kind of liking them at the time. I guess I was just excited to be doing something different. But you can see with each iteration we got to the final cute trees in the end here. But it's fun to show because I think sometimes when you're starting and people say, oh, you'll improve, you just need to practice, do every day and you'll improve, and you're doing it and you're thinking, I'm not improving, are you sure? and I think this is a nice example of even if you feel really like you have mastered what you're doing, you know how to do your characters, as soon as you're put a little bit out of your comfort zone to make a different type of character, you're like, oh, I cannot do it. But if you just persevere and try, you can get to the cute ones. And in the end we did 24 times, so it was a bit tiring. but we made these ones, and they all represent different little feelings or things that you might send to your friends over Christmas. Like the ball should say, I'm on my way or something, and you have being with your friends and family or missing people as well. And well, my final point here is sharing and championing others. I think this is a really important one because this industry has always been and dominated by men, and still is. And I think quite often when you're beginning, it can feel a bit like a private club and that you can't really get in. So right from the start, we wanted to be as open as possible, and welcoming more people in and not being secretive or standoffish in any way. So we got this chance to go to Peru, like 2 months into working together, to work with this company called Creana, who make courses about design and animation and things. So we went there and we stayed with them for 2 weeks, and it was this really cool, really young company. And one of them in the company as well was part of this local craft collective, so we got to go and meet them as well. And it was really cool to see how their take on design in general, because they just wanted to make it as accessible to everyone as possible. The courses are in Spanish, so if you speak Spanish, you can do them. And because they work in the Latin American market mostly. But we made 2 courses, one of character design, another one of character animation. And you just kind of followed step by step through all of the process of the modeling and creating clothes. And now we have already more than 2,000 students or something, making tons of different styles of characters, and they kind of begin with the one from the course, and then you use those skills to go on and create the next one. Because I think the value in what we do, it's not in the technical abilities, it's not in knowing what programs to use or anything, it's in the message that you want to portray and how you approach making characters. So I think the more people that you're teaching how to do it, the more interesting different results you're going to get. As well as the online courses, we also get to do sometimes courses in person. So we did this one in Tumo Center, which is a design technology center in Armenia. And it's for teenagers, and it's free for all teenagers who want to sign up and go after school in Armenia. And then in the summer, they invite people from all over the world to come and do workshops. So when we went there were like 20 other studios from different parts of the world, and they were doing things like making drones, doing creative writing. They made a whole album, and we did a robot fashion show. And it might not sound really clear what that is, but I have a video here explaining a bit of the process and then showing some of the students' amazing results. So in the first 2 or 3 days of the workshop, we were working completely with pencil and paper, and we were doing exercises, learning about shape and colour, and a bit more theory of character design and concept. Once everyone had an idea about how they might create a character, they each sat down and designed a robot. Once we all had a robot in sketched form, they moved into 3D modelling. So we used Cinema 4D to model the robots initially. And then once they'd finished modelling and putting lots of details like little screws and little panels, we moved into Marvelous Designer, where we created clothing.
The final result was a fashion show in which each of the robots created by Ben was wearing different garments and they went on a catwalk. It's a funny concept that we created. A lot of different skills were required to complete this project. They included using your imagination to be able to think about a robot that has a functionality and has a meaning, and also using your 3D modeling skills, and also rendering, like understanding materials and understanding how we can express personality or character with the use of different materials, different shapes, and different colors.
And here we all are doing the robot, obviously. And it was so cool to see, to work with students. They were 15 to 17, so they had a lot of imagination and a really different way of seeing things. And they were also like really easygoing, because this guy in the back, at the very beginning, he wanted to make a half cyborg, half psychiatrist kind of film. And we said, look, we've only got 2 weeks and you don't know how to 3D model. And basically it is not happening. And he kind of just said, okay. And then in the end, he made that one that you saw that was a microwave that was wearing a Hawaiian shirt. So he didn't mind, he just kind of came up with a brand new idea and didn't push back at all. So it was really special for us. And again, to reiterate the point, I think when you're making the technological side or whatever side people might think is difficult, when you're making it more accessible and when you're showing people that that's not really the hard bit, I think that's when you're getting so many different new voices in, and that's when you're getting an emergence of a new kind of design. So that's kind of what I'm feeling excited about, and that's why I'm excited to be here today, I think. But before we finish the talk, I have just a couple of quotes that I thought it would be nice to end with, which are quite in the spirit of She Drew That. The first one is, the most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. I think that really resonates a lot with the whole conversation that we've just had. And finally, each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women. And I think that's just a little bit of food for thought for us all to take to the pub now. And thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Oh, that was